I'm not for sure how I'm going to do this. This one's big. Hi, I'm Angie with Cutting Edge Quilter. I showed you last week how I pieced together a king size quilt, and now I'm going to put it on my long arm to quilt it. I believe this is probably going to be a 2, maybe 3-part series on quilting this because this thing is huge. Okay, so when you're dealing with a quilt this big, you want to make sure that you have enough backing for it. I actually purchased, I believe, 15 yards of backing, only because I thought I was going to use it for this part as well, but I didn't like that particular, the pattern on the front. So I'm going to use it on my back. So on only my back. So I need like a probably 5 inches or so, or a little bit more, on the sides and also at the top. And the problem is that it goes from here and then it stops about right here. So that's where, because it's not wide. It's about 42 inches wide, I believe. And we need to go all the way down. Sorry, it's getting dark on us. All the way down here. So what I need to do, and I'm going to make seams because the backing that I got wasn't you can purchase big backing that's like 108 inches, something like that. But I didn't do it on this one, which is okay. I'm just going to have several seams. Probably 3 or 4 seams is what I'm going to have on this one. So I'm just going to lay it out like this, and I'm going to cut what I need off at the bottom. Like I said, I'm going to save about 5 or 6 inches at the bottom as well, because when I put it onto my long arm, I need that much for my grips to hold on to while I'm quilting, and I want to go all the way to the edge of the quilting. So that's why I need that much on the sides, the top, and the bottom. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and cut what I need and measure my quilt from top to bottom. Cut what I need, and I cut 3 or 4 strips, like big strips, and I will sew those together, and then I will load that to my long arm. I have a 12-foot frame, so I have one of the biggest ones that they have, and I think they might have a 14-foot, but I couldn't fit it in here. It would just take up too much room. But it goes from one end of my frame all the way down here to the other end, and I'm going to have to cut off some of my backing because it's hanging over the edge, so there's no way I can roll it up. I did, because it was so big, I wasn't able to look in my tiny little room up here. I wasn't able to see if I had enough backing and I had enough batting. So I actually had to take this to my living room, lay it all out, and determine if I had enough backing and batting. And turns out I needed to sew an extra panel of backing onto here. So I have 3 seams. I think I'm going to cut off a half of one of the end seams on both ends to make it fit on my long arm. So yeah, this was going to be, I think this video for this week is just going to be about rolling it up on my long arm, because it's going to take that long. So it's probably going to take me all day to do that. So we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, and I did another video before, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how I load my quilt. I'll link the video above, but this is going to be the top rail, and this is at the back of the machine. This is going to be the leveler bar. This top right here, this is usually for a quilt top. This one's for the quilt back. I usually float my quilts. We'll see about this one because it's so large, but what that means is I take off this bar and just lay the quilt over the front, and then I use clamps to hold it tight. What I'm doing right now is just laying out my top, figuring out how much I need to cut off this backing to make it fit onto my long arm. And while I'm going along, I am finding some loose threads and I need to either cut, that one I need to cut, or kind of pick off, so that way I don't have so many at the very end. I am kind of a little bit worried about the length. From here, it kind of shows that this is way longer than my backing, but on the floor, when I laid it out on the living room floor, I saw that I had just enough room on both ends, the top and the bottom. So I'll just give it just enough room, and hopefully I'll have enough backing at the end. So what I'm going to do is I take this part, which is the back leader for my back bar, and pull all the way out. Then I'm going to tuck it under the leveler bar, and then pull it up over both bars. I'm going to start in the middle, and then I will work my way to the front, or to the side, sorry. Make sure everything's all nice and even. This one I'm going to be using the whole thing, so make sure everything's all even. Okay, so here's the front, and what I did, the belly bar I think it's called, I unrolled this all the way to until it's all gone from the bar, and then I'm going to take my leader and I will just pull it up from the front, and that's what I pulled it up there, and then I'll just turn it around like this. So it's going to go over both of these bars. I'll start in the middle, and then I will do the sides, getting all these little threads as I go, because I don't want to mix up in my quilt. Now that I got these all prepared, then what I will do is get my quilt backing, and I'm going to find the center. So since this one's huge, it's going to take me a little bit. So what you do is just kind of fold it, find the center of the quilt, and I'm going to go ahead and pin this center. So I'll remember where that was. And I'm going to do the same with the top. This is the bottom. I'm going to do the same with the top. So that way we can get it all nice and even. And I want to make sure that this is all nice and even in the back right here. I got this from Harbor Freight, just a little magnetic pen holder, or it's supposed to be like a little magnetic tool holder, or I guess screw holder, something like that. And I'm going to take this to the back first because it's just going to be easier for me to have it on the back, and I can start rolling up, and then I'll work with the front. So what I'm going to do here is I pin my middle, and I'm going to take, I've already marked my leaders. I don't know if you can see this black mark. That's where the middle of the leaders are. And I will pin the middle to the leaders. Okay, so that's pinned. I'm going to do one side first, and then I'll move on to the next side, just making sure my pins are all going that way. If you have your pins going the other way, just make sure they're all going the other way. This last one I'm going to do the opposite way, and then I'll do a couple of bites with my needle. So it's going to be opposite of the other way, so that way it'll be nice and sturdy. I'm rolling this up at the back. And the reason why, sometimes I usually just pin from the front first before I roll it up, but this one is so large that I'm going to go ahead and roll it up at the back. And I'm going to go back and forth, smoothing out the quilt backing as I go, and just to make sure that everything's still center and where I want it to go. Sometimes you get these ends and they'll kind of overlap one another and they won't be centered. So I just kind of smooth it out this way as well. It's good as far as that goes. And I will go ahead and pin it to my front. And then I'm going to kind of roll it all the way back out so I can get my top, my batting and my top on. Essentially what I'm going to do is roll this up, this belly bar is what they call it, roll it up, make sure all of my backing is in that, and then put it all rolled up to this way, to this side. That way I can start at the very top here and put my batting and front on my quilt, or on the backing, and get that all nice and evened out. This one I had a little bit extra, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. So we're working with a nice, straight, even line. And these bars, they lock whenever you're rolling them. Whenever I am loading up a quilt, I leave them unlocked. It's just easier to roll and unroll as I need to. Okay, I'm finding my center. This leader cloth also has a center that's marked. That's what I did. First thing is that when I got this is to mark my center of my leader cloths, just because it just makes it so much easier. I'm going to find the center of my quilt first and make sure that we got it all nice and centered. And if you see here, I don't know if you can see this or not, I did mark this leader with the center here, so that way I kind of know where the center is to the top as well. If you notice, I'm getting it pretty close to the top. Normally I allow about this much space, but with this quilt, I'm a little bit worried I'm not going to have enough room at the bottom, so I'm going to go ahead and just utilize every bit that I have. And if I do at the very top, it's going to be enough. So that is it for this week. That was a pretty big chore because I've never had a quilt that would cover the whole 12 foot. But at least we got this done for this week. Next week, what I'm going to do is go ahead and clean out my machine, make sure it's oiled really well, and change my needle for this big project. And we will go ahead and base the top and the sides. I'm going to also show you which pantograph that I chose. I'm going to do just edge-to-edge design with one pantograph. Whenever I print those off, I have to print off several, so I'm going to show you how I lay those out and tape them down to the back of my machine. And then we'll start stitching it up. The week after that, stay tuned, because I'll show you how I will make sure everything's square and put my binding on this quilt. I don't do hand binding, so it's going to be interesting to put this through my sewing machine and do binding that way, but we can do it. So definitely stay tuned for that, and I'll show you if I have any tips or anything for you while you're doing a king quilt, binding a king quilt, then I'll definitely share those with you too. I'm also going to show you what I use to make sure these are all nice and snug. I am snapping, these are called quilt clips from the Grace Company. Oh, sorry, you can't hardly see that, it's blue. So you kind of, what you do when you order those, you kind of measure your bar and get them to the width of your bar. So I've never used all 4 of them, they come with 4, but today I'm going to. And I just start with the side here and just push them down. And so thanks for watching. Make sure that you like this video and subscribe if you want to see the rest of the series on this, or if you want to see anything else that I have for the week. So thanks for watching.